My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Well, hello there, and welcome to WTA Weekly, everyone. I am your host, as always, Nick Carter. I realised recently that I should probably tell everyone, in case you're new, if you're listening, that who I am. Fortunately, I usually have a different guest every week on the show, so I do need to give this man an introduction. It is the one, the only Tennis and Bagels host, Mr. Andre Rollenberg. Andre, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am very well, thank you. I am fresh off my return to the tennis court and a absolute thumping, but we don't need to go into that. So yeah, we're here today to talk to you about lots of things happening on the WTA tour. In case of you have noticed, we don't have all the results in yet. The IASI final is still going on between Mira Andreeva and Elena Evanesian. I have it on in the background, so I can keep an eye on it. But for any of you who are interested, it is a clay court slog. And unfortunately, this could take a long time. So we're going to just talk us through anyway. That having said, Andreeva looking very good right now, but she's been a breakup in every set, and it's just started the third. So long rallies, lots of moon balls, very slow clay conditions. They may be done by the end of the show. So, yes. But hey, I've got on the big screen, and I must be one of the few people in the world right now who has the IASI Open final on a big screen and the Olympics opening ceremony on a small screen.
Yeah. I mean, I had it on my TV, but I'm not in the room anymore. So I just have the Olympics on my phone screen right now. So I can at least see when they light up the torch, which should be soon, I believe.
Yeah, well, they're walking up with an Olympic flag right now, but we're not. Okay. I'm not going to try and comment on two things at the same time. We'll keep an eye on both sort of moments as to sort of when they happen. Maybe if you are here and you're listening to us instead of following the Olympics opening ceremony, good on you. And speaking of the Olympics, we know you're all here to talk about tennis at the Olympics. So we're going to flip the show format on its head a little bit. Normally, we would go through sort of previous results sort of from this week and then kind of look ahead. I think because we don't have this week's results yet, we're going to start with a look ahead to the Olympics because, let's face it, that's what everyone's excited about. And we'll go from there. Sound good, Andre?
Yep, perfect.
Right. So we didn't get an opportunity. We did a little bit of an Olympics preview with Miles on the last episode, but we didn't have the draw. But Andre, you have the benefit of being able to go through the draw. I say this. Let's go this. When I share the draw on the screen, is this going to be the first time that you've seen it?
For the draw?
Yeah.
I have seen it before though, but okay, let's see. This is the first time I ever see this before in my life.
Well, no, but like, okay, you could say that is if you have seen the draw, perfect. That makes things a little bit easier. I guess overall thoughts on the draw before we really dig into it is Swiatek and Gauff are probably heavy favourites to make it through, especially with the absence of Sabalenka and now Rybakina, sadly, due to bronchitis. Sabalenka obviously wasn't planning on playing anyway. This basically sets us up for Swiatek and Gauff being the headline names in the draw. But the key question is, I suppose, as the tournament is, can anyone stop Iga Swiatek?
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting question because the Olympics are always like a kind of a different deal. Like, yeah, sure, it's on clay, it's RG. Like, she's definitely the favorite. On paper, in reality, I think that all those things like should point up to the fact that she would be the winner, and she's already got 1 Olympic Games under her belt, so she already has had that experience at least that she can draw into. But it's always a little bit tough to tell, right? It's never easy to play in the Olympic Games. You're always representing something a little bit bigger than yourself, and players really tend to really take that experience up a notch as in their perceptions of how things are. So on paper, no, but we've seen upsets before in tournaments, so I think it would be wise to keep our eyes open.
Yeah, I mean, talking about this Olympics is interesting, isn't it? Because when we're talking about the Olympics, we know that it adds a little bit of extra pressure on players. Each by extra players, and Iga is no exception. You know, Damien has mentioned many times in previous shows about how the Olympics is such a big deal in Poland, and we know it's a big deal for Iga, who broke down crying when she lost to Badosa in the last one. Now, in theory, I would say the conditions of Roland Garros in August should favour Swiatek because, you know, you would expect Paris to be hot and sunny and the ball will jump up off the clay a bit more. And, you know, on paper, that's what should happen. That really depends on the weather, though, because judging by the opening ceremony, it might be a bit soggy.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting time of the year. I guess I'm not sure like how much rain is it going to be like for the entirety of the week. But also, I think that at least she won the title at Roland Garros as well back in October. So who knows? Maybe there's some similarity in that. I'm not exactly sure. I think that the rain, the worst thing that probably could happen, I would say, is that just like matches delayed. I'm not entirely sure that this is going to make the conditions so outrageously different that it's going to make a difference. I feel like if anything is going to make a difference for Swiatek in this tournament is just the occasion. I would imagine like the rest of the actual elements, I don't think it's going to be standing in her way, honestly.
Yeah. And yeah, I think they're going to be playing most of the tennis under roofs, so it shouldn't affect too many matches. We have a result. We have a result in Iasi. Mira Andreeva has won her first WTA title as Alina Evanesian retires 4-love down in the deciding set. We will come back to that. I think we'll still stick with the plan rather than jumping around too much. But breaking tennis news, Mira Andreeva is a WTA champion at 17.
Well, I almost expected her to already have a title to her name, to be fair. But yeah, interesting. It's only many more to come, right? So there's...
Well, in theory, that's what we're expecting, right? So
yeah, exactly. Let's
see how that plays out. But we'll come back to the result because, yeah, that's a big result. Well, let's go through this draw. So I think the initial reaction to this draw was going back to Swiatek. She's got yet again all of her potentially toughest opponents are in her section, and it's getting a bit weird that the same people keep showing up. Noskova, Ostapenko, Collins are all in there. I'm not a conspiracy theorist in any way. I do genuinely think there's some kind of algorithm glitch or something going on. That's the best explanation I can come up with. I don't think, like, in some ways you could say, well, if you know Iga's going to win, you add to some drama by making a draw a bit tougher. But even if you were trying to do that, let's be honest, how pessimistic can we be about Swiatek on clay and Roland Garros in any conditions, as you were talking about?
Not much. I feel like only if you're Polish, you will be pessimistic about Swiatek in this Olympics. But it's like the biggest fans are the only ones who really speak doom and gloom all the time. So
yeah.
In terms of conspiracy, I don't know. You just touched on a really good point. Like, is there an algorithm nowadays that be like, well, where are the biggest chances of us getting like good matches? And just kind of tossing in like player by player. That's not necessarily a conspiracy theory. I'm just saying it could be a possibility to like make weeks of tennis more interesting. But yeah, that's like on a different conversation, a different topic. But yeah.
Yeah, little bit of let's not get too deep into that. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about it. Let's dissect the Swiatek draw. First 2 rounds, no, I don't see any significant threats. Begu shouldn't be a problem for her. And then Podoroska or Parry, I would expect that to be Parry, judging by Podoroska's form, as someone in the live chat has pointed out. And much as I love Parry's game, and she's one of my favorite players to watch, like she's up there with Iga and Layla for me, I do think that she'll struggle to hit through Swiatek, and Swiatek does play a similar game on the forehand, but more effective. So I don't necessarily see the first 2 rounds being too much of a problem. It's the potential round 3s where things get interesting, Andre.
Yeah, I don't really see much in that part as well. Like, I think it's definitely, as soon as I actually looked at the draw, I kind of drifted my eyes a little bit below so that I could see like the other players, because I feel like Swiatek is really going to have an easier time making it past the rest of the section of the draw. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we might be seeing a lot of the same from Swiatek, the classics 6-1, 6-2, 6-love, 6-2s that we're accustomed to seeing from her in early stages of tournaments. So I think we're going to be seeing some of that up until maybe, I don't know, maybe Schneider could have something interesting against her, but also maybe not. And then, yeah, maybe Collins would be the first one, or Ostapenko to challenge her really. But
yeah,
that would be what, quarterfinals?
Yeah, they would be quarterfinals. Yeah, it would be, so 3rd round or last 16 would be, well, I could see any of those players, Noskova, Wangzhou, Cotteretto or Schneider making it, because they can all catch fire, especially on clay. Like they're actually all decent clay court players. Noskova and Schneider the most likely. If I was going to pick any of them, I'd go with Schneider. And you're right. I looked at this and I thought Schneider's the one who's going to give Iga the biggest headache, because she's a big hitter who likes clay, and she's just won a clay title, albeit not necessarily with the strongest opposition. But we're talking about, can players hit through Iga on clay? I'm not sure anyone can hit through Iga on clay. I mean, Osaka gave it a good go at Roland Garros this year. But if you look at who's beating Swiatek on clay in the last few years, it's been Rybakina or Sabalenka or Garcia. It's a player who like you would rely, and like they all went 3 sets and it was all really, really close. Yeah. It's not that simple to take her down. So my question would be, could Schneider sustain that? If she goes red hot, maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely the question, right? Like, I mean, clay is obviously like her favorite surface. That is like the confidence level is higher in there. But I think also that she just kind of has the timing and the ability to stay in rallies for a little longer and just kind of keep casting the question. And you really have to be like Garcia played on. You mentioned her. She beat her, I believe, was in Warsaw. I think.
Yeah, Warsaw. The last time Warsaw was on clay.
Yeah, and it was probably one of the best versions of Garcia that she could possibly ever put up on a court, on a tennis court. And it takes that to beat Swiatek on a clay court. you have to be really like good. And even Sabalenka couldn't take it in Madrid, which I think would be a clay court that would be like more in her favor in a sense. Like you kind of would level things up a bit for Sabalenka. It's like a little faster, like favors a bit more like a big serve, and Swiatek still came through in the end, right? So you really will take something getting into Swiatek's mind. Maybe the pressure of the moment could get to her head, and Schneider would need to also kind of be red hot, redlining the entire time.
And I would probably say the same thing about the other players that Polish fans are scared of, Ostapenko and Collins.
Yeah.
Because Ostapenko also, we've seen Ostapenko get red hot on clay before when she won Roland Garros. Collins got red hot on clay in Charleston, but it's very different clay.
Yeah.
And I out of those two, I think Ostapenko might be the more likely. I think Ostapenko would be fairly happy with how the draw's shaken out, although Diana Yastremska potentially dangerous in there as well. But with Ostapenko, this might be the first time, if they did play, I would say make Swiatek the favourite to win that match against her. I think I could see Swiatek finally getting that Ostapenko win if they played in the quarterfinals.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, and honestly, like just as I looked at it, even Osorio, her first round is a tricky one. Osorio hasn't really necessarily been playing her best, and I know, but she's good in clay court. She likes those conditions. I would say it's a match that, and Ostapenko being the player that she is, could show up a little less than ideally, and it could cost her, honestly. So, but yeah, I do think that things are looking very good for Swiatek here, even against Ostapenko. Say Collins, I'm not so sure. I think that Collins is playing and like really hoping for something, but she probably would rather be on another section of the draw. I don't think that we should have much high hopes that she would be a medal hope for this Olympics.
Yeah, I think Collins has cooled a bit in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Sadly, because I would love her to do. But that being said, that fourth round at Wimbledon was pretty good, losing to eventual champion Krejcikova. But so maybe not. So maybe that's a little pessimistic on my part. But we'll have to see. But yeah, so our message to our pessimistic Swiatek fandom friends who may be watching this is: don't panic.
Trust your hero.
Trust her. Okay, so we are, despite the potential hiccups, backing Swiatek to make semis from this section.
Yeah, fairly sure that's a semi.
Okay. I'm going to jump, rather than working my way down, I'm actually going to jump straight to the bottom of the draw now.
All right.
The Coco Gauff quarter. Because, by contrast, if you are a Coco Gauff fan, you are probably very happy with how this draw worked out.
Yeah, I mean, you see some good names in there, but in terms of Gauff, I think she has the difference in Swiatek that, contrary to Swiatek, where you have like kind of like the big hitter problem, the only problem that Gauff seems to really have is Swiatek.
Yes,
it's the only player who you can kind of consistently say Gauff is going to lose to, but everybody else is kind of game on. Like. She may not have like winning head-to-heads against some players, but you can always count on her to like show up and find a solution. And the draw is really good, honestly, for her. Like those are some good names, but you still expect off at the way that she's playing at the height of her career, essentially at what 19 years old, 20 to come through of this one. But yeah, who do you see in there to be? Potentially a big problem.
So I see there are players in there that I think could stop Gauff from making semis, but it really depends on the kind of performance they put in. So right at the top, you've got Maria Sakkari, who, yeah, if Sakkari plays well, as we saw in Indian Wells, she could beat Gauff, and we know she's done well at Roland Garros before. But Sakkari in big tournaments is not necessarily easy to predict. And Kovanic is not an easy first round for her. I think Kovanic can redline and be very dangerous. Honestly, the name that I think Gauff's potential third round could be tricky, be it against Vekic, Andreescu, or Towson. Bronzetti could be her third round opponent. But I would be backing Gauff to win that one. But if it's any of the other three in that section who could make the last 16, that could be a banana skin for her, particularly Andreescu, I think.
Yeah, Andreescu is kind of like on a slight rise as well. She's been playing well. I think she reached the final not too long ago. And she did well at the French Open as well, right? So I don't recall who she lost to, but it was a good campaign. I think she reached a third round or fourth round. I think it was third round. And it's interesting to see like where is the level going to be. I think she's going to be really excited to be playing for Canada again. So it's interesting. She has to get there though. I think Towson is a tough opponent. I would almost even say that based on everything, and maybe because I'm Canadian now, the pessimism is kind of like leaking into me, but I would say Towson is coming through maybe that match, and probably Vekic makes it through.
That is one of the toughest matches to call, to be honest, in terms of which way that's going to go. Pauli, like I've done my bracket, and I really went back and forth on the Andreescu Towson match. It's really going to depend on what happens on the day, because I think Andreescu is going to get at least a set.
Oh yeah, I think that it's going to be at least a tight set, like a super tight set. Yeah, high quality tight set one. At least you're going to be guaranteed on this one.
So we've got some, but I'd say that's where Gauff could get unstuck. And then quarterfinals, it depends on whether it's Sakkari, maybe Putintseva, or Alexandrova. But on the whole, I think if Gauff gets through her last 16, I would probably back her. I would expect that she's going to end up in the semis.
Yeah, I would say probably put Gauff up in the semis as well.
Unlike the other sections, which are wide open, like super wide open. So let's jump back up to section 2 and look at who is looking to be in Swiatek's potential semi-final opponent, or the luckiest semi-finals alive if Swiatek goes up before the semi-finals. So Rybakina was in this section. She pulled out. Garcia becomes a seed and moves in. So it just shifts some things around. But we've already got a couple of eye-catching first rounds in there. The two that obvious, Osaka versus Kerber, and we'll come back to Kerber and do a proper tribute to her career in a bit. But Osaka Kerber is 2 Grand Slam champions who haven't necessarily got the best results on clay is interesting. And then Mukova Fernandez is the other one that caught my eye, and that was the other match. Why do they both involve Canadians? That I went back and forth on which way that one was going to go.
Yeah, the Canadians haven't necessarily put themselves up in the top 10. So if they have good showings, and they have a good level, but they're ranked low, so it tends to happen when this is happening. So that's where we are right now. First rounds. Mukova also coming back from injury again for the gazillionth time in her career, unfortunately. So this is her now there. I have no idea who's going to win those matches, especially because Fernandez has been playing very well lately. I think she's kind of getting back to her groove of actually finding ways to win matches where she was kind of struggling a little bit before, last year.
It's a nightmare draw for both of them because Fernandez is playing well, so that's not great for Mukova, who wants a smooth start. On the other hand, Mukova's played herself into form since coming back over Eastbourne, Wimbledon, and then Palermo, and actually putting in a decent standard of tennis. So that's I think that one I've marked as I really want to see that if I can. we'll have to see if I can get back home in time tomorrow to catch it, because I'm going out. But we'll see. I can't watch all the tennis all the time, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm looking at this section and like I could list so many players who could come through.
Yeah.
Like it's wide open.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to give something to Osaka though, the way she played in the French Open. I think she could get through it and like maybe reach the fourth round in there. I don't know how Garcia's gonna be playing. She's at home. She plays well in clay, but kind of I haven't really seen much from her. She hasn't really kind of been at the best. On the other hand, it's obviously Fernandez. Like, is she gonna beat Mukova? Like, who's going to be playing well? It's wide open. I think if I would have to say like a pick, in particularly that like quarter, not the quarter, but like the top half of this quarter is pretty packed.
Yeah. So yeah, it is pretty packed. I mean, like you said, I've got Garcia, Osaka. Kerber could put in a heroic last tournament effort and then retire. Mukova, Fernandez, Navarro, Zheng Qinwen. Like they are the most likely people, but I couldn't. Asking me, like, I've done a bracket. I've gone with who I think might work out on balance, but I don't. Yeah, that it could very easily be wrong. I'm loving it.
Yeah, if I'm gonna say something, I feel like I want to pick Osaka to reach the quarterfinals.
Interesting.
In this one.
Okay.
And I'll say Zhang. Go easy on the seeds and pick her to reach the quarterfinals as well. And then I'll say she reaches the semis as well to face. So that's the one to face Gauff, isn't it?
No, this would be Swiatek.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you who I picked in my bracket. Navarro.
That's a good pick.
I think she's the under the radar one that could kind of surprise us all.
Yeah, I can see that too. I think that you might be right after all. You think she reaches the semis then?
I think in terms of the way WTA draws play out, I am picking Emma Navarro to make the semis.
Nice. What do you say about her chances of beating Swiatek then?
Beating Swiatek, not a lot, because Navarro has weapons, but not big weapons. I think she will struggle to live with.
Agree.
She'll struggle to live with Swiatek's spin and depth and intensity on clay. Other surfaces, maybe not, but definitely on clay, she'd struggle.
Yeah.
Very similar to the kind of problem Gauff has, really.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's I fully agree with that. Who do you think in this section then would have the best chances of troubling Swiatek?
Well, now Rybakina's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, look, most people would say Osaka, based on what happened in what happened last time they played. But I don't know. I think Iga might be ready for her next time, and know what's coming. Especially if it's on the same court. Zheng Qinwen took a set off her before, but I think Iga's figured her out.
Yeah.
A red-hot Caroline Garcia's caused her problems before. And then there's the person who very nearly beat her in a Roland Garros final, Karolina Mukova.
Yeah. I would almost want that one to happen, just kind of to see that again. It was a good contrast of styles. It was a great match, so I wouldn't be unhappy if that happened. But yeah, I'll probably stick to Zhang. I think that she will make it to the semis. That would be my pick.
Yeah. So who's your pick? Sorry, Osaka.
Zhang.
Zheng. Okay, going for Zheng.
For the semis.
Gonna hold.
I would say a fully Asian quarterfinal on that quarter.
Saka Zheng with Zheng to come through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is going to be the most entertaining section to follow.
Yeah.
Whereas I think when Rybakina was in it, it was very much about who would stop Rybakina getting there. I mean, to be fair, actually, if Rybakina was playing, we'd be talking about this being a tough draw for her. Actually, because Christian would have been a nightmare first round in some ways, because Christian's looking good on clay. Then it would have been a Saka or Kerber. Saka would have potentially caused us some problems. Mukova or Fernandez in round 3, not ideal for her. And then I think the first time I'd actually clearly back her to win would probably be the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's definitely the section that anyone could come out of it almost.
If you like, this is the one to watch. If you are caring about, if you are the most interested in stories.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's going to be a good story to come out of it for sure. I think the semifinalist. Oh, and by the way, given that this is the Olympics, reaching the semifinals is a big deal, because if you lose, just to get to play for bronze medal. So
yes,
yeah, this is something that is going to be really big. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, yeah. So if you're one of the players in this section that we're talking about, like, oh my word, I could go down in history as they're thinking I could go down in history as an Olympic medalist here.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot of stuff. Oh, and by the way, Nadal just walked in to grab the flame from Zinedine. If you're watching that,
Nadal took
back
the flame
to the draw. Yeah, he's a torchbearer.
Okay, that wasn't what I was expecting, because I would have thought Zinedine Zidane would have been their pick to light it, but getting Nadal, maybe Nadal's not lighting it, but that goes to show how big a deal Nadal is in France.
100%, yeah. I guess it makes sense, right? And Roland Garros is definitely his turf, or his dirt.
I doubt he's going to be the one who lights it, though.
Don't think so, but it's probably going to be a French person.
Yeah, I was like, who's a bigger French sports icon than Zinedine Zidane?
Great question.
I guess we'll find out live on the tennis on Talking Tennis.
Yeah.
As we try and work out who could be bigger sporting icon. I mean, like, if this Olympics was happening in Madrid or Barcelona or anywhere in Spain, Nadal would be lighting that flame.
Definitely, yeah. No doubt about it.
And if the Olympics ever comes to Warsaw, we know Iga Swiatek would be a candidate as well.
Definitely. Unless her catch start winning like crazy right now.
Yeah, that's true. But even then, Iga's something else.
Iga's definitely something else.
Right, so we might get distracted by the lighting of the flame, but we will continue to section 3 and the last section for us to preview. And again, fairly open section. This was originally the kind of the fun, who's going to come through this section? But unlike the previous section where it feels like anyone could come through, you've got a lot of names. You've got I can see 3 big names, the top 10 players who are in this section. Yeah. The top 10 ranked players who are in this section, with maybe 1 or 2 dark horses to come through. But your headline names in this are Pegula, Krejcikova, Paolini.
Yeah. Pegula is interesting right now. I have no idea how she's going to come out. She hasn't necessarily been her best for some time now. But it's Pegula, and I think contrary to the other section of the draw, where it seems like everybody's kind of having this resurgence, if you will. This section of the draw is kind of everybody's sort of struggling a little bit. Maybe Krejcikova and Paolini are
I was going to say Krejcikova and Paulini are definitely not struggling right now. Paulini is a rich vein of form, and Krejcikova looks like she's having the time of her tennis life right now.
Yeah, and it's crazy. She did not look like she was having the time of her life before Wimbledon, but now she is. So we'll see what happens. But a player that I would love to see doing well here is Haddad Maia. I think she's good on clay. She's playing for Brazil. Maybe that's something that could help her out, get a bit out of her slump that she hasn't necessarily been at her best lately. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see like what happens here. But I feel like the biggest quarterfinal lineup that we necessarily I think that we would see is Paulini and Krejcikova. I think those are the two that I would pull to reach the quarterfinals here.
Yeah, Paulini or Krejcikova.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. I think that quarterfinal is most likely going to be between those two players in a rematch of the Wimbledon final.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting too, because like I feel like from the other half of the draw, like you get Gauff into the semifinals. I think both Paulini and Krejcikova have a very solid chance of beating her. Like I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, but I'm saying that it's a lot less lopsided than it would be on the other section of the draw against Swiatek.
I would completely agree. I think Krejcikova's got definitely a good chance of beating Gauff, and if it's Paulini Gauff, I think we would be in for a really fun match if that were to happen.
Yeah,
like that would be, super exciting. I think there'd be a very dynamic match. There'd be a lot of great movement on display in defense and clay court prowess. Not that it wouldn't be with Krejcikova against Gauff, but I think it would look very different.
Yeah. It's both of them would be like fights in a certain way, but I think Paulini would be like more of like a grind match, whereas Krejcikova would be more of like a more crafty style of tennis. I think that kind of that's what would happen. Also, the fact that I would say Krejcikova has a better serve than Paulini, so this might make a bit of a difference.
For sure. And that could, as we saw in the Wimbledon final, right? But obviously we're expecting that to play out very differently compared to clay.
Yeah.
So there are, as I said, two dark horses, and I've seen one of them being named in the chat, Svitolina.
Yep.
I could definitely see her upsetting Pegula. She likes clay. I would give her a decent chance of putting up a fight against Krejcikova or Paulini and sneaking through.
Yeah. Do you think that she beats both of them back to back? I think not, but yeah.
I think she can.
Yeah. She can. Svitolina.
I think she can.
I don't know. I think they're a little bit too much. I think she beats one and stops on the other.
That would be, so she'd beat Krejcikova but lose to Paulini.
Yeah. I would say so. Yeah.
I think Svitolina is kind of at a stage where she like the only way to beat her is to overpower her.
Yeah.
And I'm not entirely sure either of them would do that. So then it's going to become, as we've got Nadal and Serena Williams.
That's what I'm thinking. I was like, I'm hoping this is Serena Williams because my screen is very small and I don't want to say anything.
Serena Williams on the right.
Okay.
I don't know who the guy is holding it. I probably should, but I don't.
Yeah. Wow, tennis represented in the Olympics right here. Eh?
Tennis cool. Icons.
Yeah, not only anyone.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so there you go. So tennis on its way. And Serena Williams is back on the world stage, everyone. This is great. I really wish, so part of me wishes that we'd started WTA Weekly when Serena was still playing, because then we could talk about her, but like live playing, but oh well.
Hell.
But going back to the draw, I think Svitolina. I think the only reason she wouldn't lose is if maybe she got into two long matches back to back and maybe tied out. I could definitely maybe see if she got into two battles with Krejcikova and Paulini, she might not have enough left against Gauff. But I definitely think that Svitolina, now she's hitting the ball a bit bigger, has a chance.
Yeah. Her draw is actually kind of favorable up until, I'd say, maybe Krejcikova. I don't know what to make of a Sorriba Stormo as her Krejcikova's first round. Could be either really easy or really long. So
Yeah, it depends which Sorriba Stormo shows up.
yeah. And it depends on whether Krejcikova shows up as well, because I don't know if this is going to happen.
Well, she's just won the doubles title with Siniakova in Paris, and yet again, like beaming smile when she won it.
True.
So I think she's feeling pretty confident right now, Krejcikova.
Yeah, could be. Yeah. So yeah, I'll probably put on. Also, having Krejcikova and Paulini in a rematch of the Wimbledon final will be really, really interesting in this section. But I think,
and the other name that's a dark horse, which has already been mentioned in the chat, but I did have her on my radar as someone who recently who seems to be very, very comfortable on clay right now. But it depends on how much she has in the tank, because it's our new WTA champion, Miranda Andreeva. What could she do? I don't know what she does against Paulini though, especially if her tank's a bit low. Yeah,
I would say maybe too early in her career for an Olympic chance, but she could surprise us. Maybe the youthfulness in her is going to make her just like sleep off the 3 hours that she almost played right now. She's only 17 years old. Maybe tomorrow she's going to be feeling like $1 million, and it will be just like another week of tennis for her. But yeah, I mean,
she's young. Children bounce back from all these kind of from
exactly
all sorts of things. Boundless energy. So we'll see how that goes. But she could maybe sneak something, but let's hold back on it. But I wouldn't be too surprised if, again, she gets herself into the semi-finals, and then imagine at 17 competing for an Olympic medal, potentially. Because that would
be pretty epic.
Yeah. I mean, it does happen. We've got teenagers in a lot of different sports doing well and backed to win them potentially. So the Olympics, that's the beauty of the Olympics.
Yeah.
I will, because
go on.
No, go on. I'm going to change the subject, but finish your point because it's related to what I just said.
Okay, I was just going to say that if I'm to pick somebody, I just feel like I want to see Paulini out of this section. I want to see her in the semis. I think she deserves something after the incredible 2-3 months that she's had.
I would love to see Paulini in the semis again, and who knows, maybe third consecutive big final would be hilarious.
Yeah,
but on my bracket, I went with Krejcikova making semis.
All right. Over Paulini, or did you pick Andreeva to reach?
Over Paulini. Yeah, no, I didn't back Andreeva initially going that far.
Okay.
But I think she's got a tough opening couple of rounds, to be honest. But yeah, I think I'm picking Krejcikova, to be honest. Maybe that would be my downfall, but
who knows?
Yeah, I was want to say in terms of, because I know that we do have some of a British audience, and being a Brit, I do want to quickly comment on Katie Bolter. I don't fancy her chances getting through round one. Schmiedlova is a very confident and competent clay court player, and Katie Bolter's still working out the surface a little bit. So I am very pessimistic about her chances of making it past the first round. And if she did, Haddad Maia on clay is a nightmare for most players. Yeah.
I think Bolter would be a better pick on a hard court. We're back to London, 2012. Maybe
she
different story. But I think this time might be a little rough for her.
All right, so we've got our predicted semifinals. We've gone slightly different. So you've gone with Swiatek, Zheng, and then Paulini, Gauff.
Yes.
Who are contending for the gold and silver medals, and who's going to be contending for the bronze medal?
I think the gold medal will be Swiatek. Swiatek versus goodness, if I had picked Krejcikova, I would put Krejcikova in the final. But since I picked Paulini, I would say probably 1v2. Like I'd say Swiatek Gauff in the final.
Swiatek Gauff, Poland versus
Yeah.
USA, which would give us a bronze medal playoff between Zhongqin Wen and Jasmine Paolini.
Yeah. Off of which I would probably pick Paulini to win.
Paolini gets a bronze medal, which would match her trajectory.
Yeah, you would. You would.
Yeah. Definitely feels like her trajectory. Serena Williams worried about falling over there. The boat seems to be going very fast. Everything's a bit wobbly.
Pretty fast.
They go, we got to get this flame there. And they try not to let the flame blow out. Yeah, okay. So apparently for bronze. Out of my choices, obviously I went with Swiatek Navarro, Poland USA semi-final, and then a Krejcikova Gauff semi-final, so Czechia USA. And I'm going for a Poland Czechia final, an all US battle for bronze.
Mm-hmm.
In that situation.
That would be really almost the dream for US to have both in the bronze. They probably would want people to be in the gold medal match, but I think they could deal with the medal coming out of tennis. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say then bronze medal match. I'm picking Gauff to get revenge on Navarro. Although she can get a bit down. I suppose it also depends on how she does in the doubles as well. But on paper, I go with Gauff. Oh, who's picked that up? Is that Amelie Mauresmo? No.
Yeah, actually, the director of Roland Garros. My gosh, like the tennis is, well, sorry for the pun, but on fire. the torch.
Yeah,
I think Mauresmo actually has already won a medal as well. She's.
Oh yeah, which Olympics was it she won a medal at?
2004 or 2008.
It would have been 2004 because she was kind of fading by 2008. Because 2004 was when Anand won gold, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. Because it wasn't 2008, maybe Serena Williams. In the gold.
No, 2008 was Dementieva. It was like Russian sweep. Dementieva beating Safina in the final.
That's true. That's true.
I think Li Na got the bronze in an all-Chinese bronze medal match against Zhongxi. No, or did the Russians not call the medals out when there was a third medalist from Russia? But yeah, it was Dementieva who won it. That was her only that was the biggest title of her career.
Oh yeah, it's true.
In 2008. No, Serena won 2012 gold, and Venus won 2000.
And Serena must have also. She also won another gold, didn't she?
No, she won doubles golds, but she didn't win another singles gold.
All right. Yeah, 1996 would be a little too early. But yeah.
And I'm assuming that whoever she plays in the final, backing Iga Swiatek to add her name to the list of tennis women's singles gold medalists that we just listed off, also adding to Monica Puig from Rio and Belinda Bencic from Tokyo.
Mm-hmm. What do you have? Do you think Swiatek finally makes it happen for Poland?
I think so.
Yeah. Especially with the way that I put the draw, I'd say definitely Swiatek comes through.
Yeah, I think there are two scenarios where Swiatek doesn't win. She doesn't perform, or someone plays out of their mind level. And I'm not saying those are impossible or even that unlikely, but incredibly hard to predict.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have no idea what kind of preparation she's doing, but I think at this point, Swiatek has seen it all. She knows what she wants, and I think she's preparing for the worst, so that she can come through and still be the winner.
I mean, she's locked. She seems locked in. They're all like she's been practicing there for a solid week.
Yeah, and I heard that she's not even in the boats with Poland.
No, she's not. She's kind of that focused. Well, she's playing tomorrow at 12 o'clock Paris time.
I guess that makes some sense. Yeah, that would be a pretty tiring ceremony. It took hours.
The turnaround would be a bit of a nightmare. I think Gauff is fortunate that she's probably playing on Sunday.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she was also a flag bearer, so I don't think she would miss that opportunity.
All right, Olympics preview. We've looked at some names who could be in contention for some medals. There's definitely a few out there who could be competing for bronze or even silver. But we've thrown some names out that could derail the seemingly inevitable Swiatek gold. But I guess it's all eyes on Iga in Paris, as all eyes are on the Olympic flame as they're kind of jogging from the Louvre at the minute.
Yeah. Taking their sweet time.
These opening ceremonies always do.
True.
I think the only Olympic ceremony I've actually fully watched was London 2012. And I was surprised by how long that took, because I would have been 18 at the time, and we let my younger brother and sister stay up to watch it. And I think my, at the time, 8-year-old brother was kind of, keeping him awake was interesting.
Yeah, it was the one thing that I remember about that ceremony was Mr. Bean playing.
Wow.
You know, it's probably the funnest part about it. Like, I mean, obviously it's great, but that part is just I just love it. So yeah, it's really good stuff.
I'm looking forward to all the sports happening at the Olympics. I will be paying special attention to the tennis, but the Olympics will. But I'm looking forward to checking in on some other sports. I am clearly not up to speed on my French sportsmen and women because I don't know if I recognize any of the people here, but they look like Paralympians.
Yeah, at least the two up front. Clearly, we can see that they're using those prosthetic legs for racing. But the others have no idea as well. Clearly, great people.
Great athletes. All right.
So now that we have completed that part.
We have completed that part. However, if you are a tennis fan and you only care about tennis, you have an insane week ahead of you, because you could potentially be watching tennis for 17 straight hours, because when the Olympics finish, DC starts. So for me, I could be watching tennis from 11 a.m. till 3 a.m. if I didn't have to work. Probably different time for you.
Yeah. If I didn't have other things in my life, definitely it would be very similar, like an entire day worth of tennis from I don't know, probably 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. Like more than a full day's worth of work.
Yeah, because yes, it's the City Open in DC, and obviously we'll give you a full preview of that on ATP Weekly as well, where that's happening tomorrow. I think at the minute is the current plan, but that's subject to change. Don't quote me on it. But yeah, in DC, Arina Sabalenka is the top seed, and she's the only top 10 player taking part. The second seed is Daria Kasatkina. There are a few eye-catching names in this draw. It has only just come out, Andre, so I'm not necessarily expecting you to have seen it. But sort of based on that information, before we kind of have a look at who's in these draws, you probably would expect Sabalenka to be the overwhelming favorite based on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you said, like, there are definitely interesting names in there, like got Pliskova, Azarenka, Japar. So it's going to be interesting, but Sabalenka is definitely the heavy favorite. I think she, having foregone the Olympic Games, she probably is trying to get like a bit ahead from the other top players on the road to the U.S. Open. I think that she's already set her eyes there, and she's probably going to try to like be maybe 2 steps ahead of the competition when it comes to that Grand Slam. So I think it kind of makes sense to be at Washington right now, just like already like making the switch, being on hard courts, being better than everybody else, beating them in Canada, beating them in Cincinnati, and then coming back to New York as the total favorite, as she very nearly could have won the title last year if not for flag bearer Coco Gauff putting up like the performance of her life there on defense.
Yeah. Looks like we're going to get Olympic flame being lit in the next minute or so. But I would agree with your assessment on Sabalenka. Winning this would give her that head start in the warm-up. Thanks for becoming a member, AceFest. Iga is very forceful on clay. I wouldn't use that language, but I would because I quite enjoy watching her on clay. I enjoy watching that. Great point on that. That's what we were talking about. Sabalenka definitely giving herself a head start, and I agree with you. Her performance there and in recent years at the US Open, as that is a mega Olympic flame.
Yeah.
Kudos to Paris. They went all out on that one.
That's an interesting one too, because it doesn't even look like flames. It's just that's an interesting. I like it.
I think Thierry Henry is one of the people.
Good call. Yeah.
I don't know who the other person is. Sadly, again, I am very ignorant of my French sports people. Oh yeah, they're launching. The balloon is being launched.
Wow.
That is pretty spectacular. That's probably the best bit of the opening ceremony.
That was well done.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, fair enough, AceFest. Yeah. AceFest putting in saying that Iga's intimidates opponents off the court and it's meant as a compliment. Fair enough. I mean, yeah, it is pretty impressive. Sabalenka, can't argue with that. I mean, I do think there are other players who could get up to speed quite quickly. I think I'd put Gauff in that category. Maybe also Osaka, depending on which version of Osaka shows up. Sabalenka should win, is heavy favorite to win this title. But there are some names in there that will still draw the crowds, I think, which we could talk about, but that will definitely help her situation with the US.
Yeah. Let's see what happens there. Yeah.
The other name in the draw, by the way, that might be worth noting. So your top 4 seeds are who are getting buys. Sabalenka's number 1 seed, Kasatkina's number 2, Samsonova's number 3, and you got Ons Jabeur number 4. And I had to do a double take when I saw this. Ons Jabeur seeded 4 at 500 isn't weird. Ons Jabeur being seeded behind Kasatkina and Samsonova, which means she's out of the top 10, is I'm still getting used to that a little bit.
Yeah. When you said that Sabalenka is the only top 10, and I saw Jabeur there, I was like, whoa, that means that she's not in the top 10. So it's been a while since she hasn't been up there. She hasn't necessarily been having the same results that she's had when she reached that US Open final and the Wimbledon final, I think 2 years in a row, I want to say. Maybe that's an opportunity for her to pick up and playing well. Like it's a bit of a shame that she's not playing in the Olympics. I think that'll be really cool for her, but at the same time, I think that maybe she also has the priorities in life. Maybe is trying to win a slam as well, and maybe she's trying the same things as Sabalenka and trying to get a head start and trying to like get used to the hard courts and like feeling more confident as well on the court. And I think that's a good option for her.
I mean, we can go through the other players who are kind of there as well. We've got Azarenka playing, Pliškova's playing, as we've seen. If you look at the bottom half of the draw, you've got Paula Badosa, Sloane Stephens. Badosa versus Kenin is a first round, as is a rematch between Elise Mertens and Emma Raducanu in round one. There's some big names in there, but how confident, based on obviously what we're seeing from these players that are in the draw, do you think that this could be a big benefit for them as well, playing in Washington?
Yeah, I think every player there who's trying to play there, it's a chance that they get to play in a tournament that gives a lot of money and a lot of points. 500 still it's not nothing, or is it 470? I don't know. But for them, it's definitely a good opportunity to be there and just trying to like set their mind something else. I think if we're being honest, the Olympics basically belong to that top section. You know, that the like top 4 players in the world. Sabalenka not being there, you know, doesn't make things much simpler for them, because Swiatek would be the top one. So yeah, it's definitely a good option to go to DC and get some matches under their belts and prepping for the hard court season.
Yeah, there's definitely positives to this, and yeah, the crowds in DC should be pleased. I still think that there's probably more interesting first round matches in the Olympics draw, but this does feel kind of like a grand slam in that you've pretty much got a whole day's worth of tennis with all the top players involved. It's just a shame that Elena Rybakina is not one of them.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely been. You almost grow to expect it. She's been sick so often. Like so often, if something happens to her health, not even injuries, she's just kind of not in her best health, and unfortunately, it just so happened to be during the Olympic Games. So yeah,
worst timing possible.
Yeah,
in some ways, if you want to, because like she probably would have been one of Kazakhstan's biggest hopes for a medal.
Yeah, she would definitely be up there
in any sport.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not going to do a full draw preview for DC. We don't necessarily do that, but I would say probably looking at this, really open as to who is going to come through the bottom half of the draw. I don't see anyone who could challenge Sabalenka on a hard court, particularly, that would stop her from making the final. And then it would really depend on who her final opponent was to see how that one went.
Yeah. I would probably pick her to win as well.
Which would make things very interesting, as you know, I think someone in the chat said that they'd be Swiatek and Sabalenka would be 1 and 2 in the race. That would be an interesting setup going into the US Open if those two won this week. Well, speaking of champions, I know we're an hour and 4 minutes into the show. I don't want to spend too long on this because I appreciate, you know, Andre, you've got places to be and whatnot, but I probably need to sleep at some point as the Olympic balloon rises above Paris. But let's talk. I promised we talk about the tennis that happened this week, and I think we'll do this as kind of a. I think we'll go back to the result we brought you earlier. Mira Andreeva is a WTA tournament champion at the age of 17. She was the heavy favorite to win IASI. She was the only top 60 player in the world taking part, apart from Tatiana Maria, who was ranked bang on 60 and then went out first round. So on paper, she should have won it, but then when you take her age into account, that sounds even crazier. But maybe it would have been a bit of a letdown if she didn't for her. But she got the job done because, she's now a champion. And I think you said that your initial reaction was you weren't surprised. If anything, we were kind of treating her as a champion already.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, it was just a matter of time before she got her hands on a trophy. It happened almost dramatically with the first 2 sets. And obviously the retirement, which isn't ideal, but she'll take it. And I think in my head, she already had a trophy, but like at least right now, I know that she is a WTA champion for the first time. And I think that you might even bring her more confidence to like win more titles in the future. I think more should be coming on her way. It's a result that I guess, as I said, was just a matter of time. So.
Yeah, and beating friend of the show, Elena Avanesian, in the final. You know, at one point I was wondering whether we'd have to congratulate Elena on sort of her first title, which it would have been had she won it. But maybe other opportunities will come because it was a brutal match, and clearly Avanesian just couldn't hold up physically in it. Andreeva managed it pretty well, and actually Andreeva also had to come back in the semi-finals. She was 5-2 match point, 5-2 and 2 match points down to Danilovic in the deciding set, and she came back to win it in a tiebreak. Yeah, this was an important week for Andreeva, not just in terms of her career and getting over that hurdle of winning her first tour level trophy, which I thought she might handle pretty well, given how well she was handling the ITF finals at an even younger age. But I think this was an important week for her in terms of her season, because after that French Open semi-final, she lost her next 2 matches on grass in Bad Homburg and Wimbledon. So this was probably very important for her to get her season kind of back on track, and maybe highlights that she's becoming a little bit of a clay specialist this early in her career.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing to be a clay specialist. I think clay is probably some of the best foundations. I think when you play well on clay, it's easier to transfer over to hard courts. Maybe a little while before she picks up grass, but yeah, if she's defining herself as not defining herself, but if she's finding her form on clay, so be it. I think go on and challenge the big ones on that surface now. Unfortunately, we have probably one of the best clay court players of our generation now dominating. So it's maybe not the best timing, but still, she's young.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? I was actually thinking about this. How long, if at all, before Andreeva becomes a real rival to Swiatek on clay? Are we talking 5 years, maybe longer?
Maybe shorter. Let's say by the time she hits 21.
Which is
I guess it's 5 years, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 4 years time.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe she's gonna do like a bit more of like a Coco Gauff ascension, and by the time she's 19 years old, she's already like top 5 in the world.
Not out of the question with Mirror right now. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't rule her out on grass either. Don't forget, Wimbledon debut, 4th round, and a tiebreak away from making the quarterfinals against Keys, when she was very much up in that match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, all those experiences are just going to pile up, and yeah, great timing for her to be doing this so young.
Great results. And actually, this week on the WTA Tour, we were talking about a trio of teenagers, because it wasn't just Andreeva who was making waves. In Prague, there were 2 other teenagers making a splash. Neither of them won the tournament. We'll come to the winner of the tournament in a minute. But probably the big breakout name from Prague was 16-year-old Lara Sampson, possibly, who made the semi-finals and had to retire a double breakdown in the 3rd to Magdalena Frech. But she beat Siniakova in the 2nd round, and kind of took everyone by storm. And suddenly we're talking about yet another 16-year-old building hype on the tour in the same way as Andreeva did last year and Brenda Kvitova's doing at the minute.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I mean, last time that we saw like this bunch of teenagers was what, like early in the late 90s, back in that time, and then of course, like we had Serena Williams, and she kind of dominated the tour for as long as she did, and a lot of players started having a bit more of like a late, like you know, late peaks, like Halep and Kerber, and then yeah, you name it. So interesting that we're having so many big teenagers, so many super young athletes coming up and playing this well. So we'll see if this is just a factor of the fact that like it's the week before the Olympics that allowed her to reach that far. If this is something that's going to remain for her, but she did well. I think that's a name to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, a name added to a long list of people who could do something incredibly special in their careers. But obviously, we've had, I guess the proof is in how things work out. Whether she stays injury free, her game does seem still very undeveloped. But it's impressive that she's getting these wins already. So yeah, add Laura Sampson to that list of let's see what happens in the next sort of 2, 3, 4, 5 years for her, and whether she's going to be a rival up there with Andreeva, and let's see what Brenda Kvitova and Sarah Baek do as well. The Czechs, it's the Czech teenagers particularly.
Yeah. The Czech Republic always finding its way to develop new tennis talent. It's kind of amazing.
Also, another teenager who we did know about, slightly older teenager, 19-year-old Linda Noskova, who got to the semi-finals in Prague, was the number 1 seed, yet again falling short of winning the title there because she did lose to now Habino in the final last year. But Noskova's the other name of like the trio of teenagers that we were all keeping an eye on, and I guess it was a tough tournament to win, looking at the names involved. But it does feel like we're still kind of waiting for Noskova to make that next big breakthrough. Not saying she won't, but she's kind of put a spotlight on herself, particularly after that Swiatek Australian Open win.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, maybe there's something of some of like the Felix Auger-Aliassime style of progression where there's this one hurdle that is very hard to get through, and maybe when she finally does it, maybe there'll be a few more like just in succession. So it could be something more similar to that. So we'll see on that, but definitely an interesting player to watch, and a player that is always kind of a bad news to see in your draw.
Yeah, she's super excited to watch. And there's a reason why we're talking about her as a potential headache for Iga in the Olympics.
Yeah.
But I am rooting for her to make that next step, whatever that looks like. Hopefully we're not waiting as long as we have been with Felix. She lost in 3 tough sets in what was a very competitive match to Magda Linette, as it was a pair of Poles, Linette and Freck, who kind of spoiled the Czech teenage party. And Linette's having an interesting section of the season so far because she had that match with Sabalenka that Damien talked about. I can't remember whether it was Madrid. I think it was Madrid. It was either Madrid or Roland Garros, where like she actually made it fairly competitive with Sabalenka. And then since then, I felt like she was playing fairly confidently. She had another tough 3-set match with Svitolina in the opening round of Wimbledon. I was there to watch that one in person, and that was a really exciting match. But yeah, to me, this feels like Linette's kind of got her mojo back and is playing really strongly. And I'm interested to see if this is going to build yet more momentum for this year for her.
Yeah, it's just definitely like one of those players that sticks around like in the grinding section of the WTA tour, way too high to be playing WTA 125s, but maybe not necessarily there to like be winning the biggest of the big tournaments. But definitely those players there would be headache-inducing if you see them in your third round or second round. If she picks up some steam, who knows? Maybe she could even like muster some magic and like find a few more upsets before the season is over.
Yeah, she's on a good trajectory, and I was very impressed with the tennis that she showed in Prague. So, well done, Magdalena. Another WTA title under her belt. I think it's her second one. So we have done with wrapping up the results. I appreciate it's been a bit of a longer show. Try not to make it too long, but I think we would be remiss to not jump back to the Olympics temporarily, or at least a player who's in the Olympics, because I did say we would. And that player is Angelique Kerber, who announced that the Olympics would be her last tournament. Slightly surprised. Well, it was a surprise because no one was expecting it. That this wasn't billed as something that she was building to. We knew she came back to play the Olympics. It wasn't clear that she was coming back to just play the Olympics and then stop. That seems to be the trajectory, though, in retrospect, that she was heading for, because after the announcement and reflecting on it, it kind of makes sense that this is what she came back for, to do one more time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's the desire of just being an Olympic athlete. I think it's just kind of goes to show just how important the event is for tennis. Like there's a lot of people who are putting up like tweets and things like that saying that, oh, maybe players should skip it because it's too tight and the surface changing is a little bit too abrupt and it's like just not ideal, and the big deal is actually the slams. But a lot of it is just human nature, right? So it's just such an important thing for them, and for her it just makes a lot of sense. Like she's probably not a Grand Slam contender anymore. She might not even be like much of a title contender, but putting up like one less big performance in the Olympics, it's one tournament. I think it's possible that she's just going to be there to like leave it all out on the court and then just go out with a bang. I think that's a perfect scene, the perfect stage to leave out on.
Which makes that opening round with Naomi Osaka even more mouth-watering, because we know Osaka doesn't leave anything off the court.
Mm-hmm.
If Angie Kerber's also not leaving anything off the court, that's going to be a fun match because she can counter Osaka's power.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge contrast of styles. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like at this stage of their careers, you would definitely give some more edge to Osaka. But as I said, like she's a player that's kind of going down. I'll keep remembering players like Gilles Simon playing his last tournament in Paris. And it just basically a ghost on court at that point, but still fighting and still got a few wins, beat Taylor Fritz in a very, very dramatic match. So it could happen. The Olympics could be a very, very emotional tournament, for those two players now.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and like Kerber and Osaka are like the night match tomorrow, and Philippe Chatrier after the Nadal Alcaraz opener.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like
a lot of good action.
If you've got night session tickets, you've got Nadal, Alcaraz, Kerber, and Osaka.
Couldn't ask for a better treat, honestly. For a first day.
Yeah. That's like Grand Slam level stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So, and I do think it's worth us paying a little bit of tribute to Kerber. We've got probably her most iconic moment on screen, winning the Australian Open title in 2016, beating Serena Williams. Nobody expected that. Like, okay, she was top 10 at the time. I think she was the 8th seed, something like that. But nobody, I certainly don't. I think it kind of came a little bit out of nowhere for some people that, oh, heck, she just beat Serena Williams in a really, really good match, really tough match. And then that she ended up becoming the player of 2016. You know, she wasn't winning titles. She was in the final. And she won the US Open. She won Wimbledon a couple of years later. Again, thorn in Serena's side in that match. Yeah, iconic moments for Kerber, who might be the ultimate late bloomer.
Yeah. She won like 3 Grand Slam titles, became number 1, just decided that she was going to be an elite player in that year. Great time. And also great tennis. Like to watch Angelique Kerber playing was just you would just guaranteed very long points, very interesting rallies, all court tennis was just guaranteed with her on there.
Yeah, I agree, because Kerber has put herself in some of the matches of the season in so many years. Like when her tennis is on, her crazy her tennis, as you described, her ability to kind of counter and deal with it, you know, it ended up producing some absolute amazing matches with I'm thinking the Serena Williams Australian Open final in 2016, the Australian Open semi-final against Halep in 2018, the Sara Sorribes Tormo third round at Wimbledon in 2021, and there was a final that she played, I think it was 2022, on clay against Kaya Juvan. That ended up almost breaking Twitter. I remember like everyone going crazy for that match. It was either 22 or 23. It was the French Open warm-up event, and it was super close.
Kaya Juvan.
Yeah.
2022 International de Strasbourg, France.
2022, yes, Strasbourg. I knew it was a French tournament. I knew it, and 22, I got the right year right first time.
7-6, 6-7, 7-6.
Yeah, it was an epic. Ended up going down as one of the match of the year contenders from that season. I think the Swiatek Krejcikova match from Ostrava later in the year beat it, but it was up there. And the other ones I mentioned were definitely, I think, ended up being match of the year. Definitely the 2016 and 2018 examples from an Australian Open. And yeah, I think that my overall point being, when Kerber was on, absolutely brilliant to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no other words to describe, just incredible, amazing tennis.
And especially when you consider, like I talked about her being a late bloomer, like if you look at her early career results, like she took so long to break out. I think she was like mid to late 20s when she suddenly switched something on in like 2012, started going deep in big tournaments almost out of nowhere, and suddenly established herself, and then went cold for a bit, and then comes bursting back on the scene in 2016.
Yeah, it's really good stuff.
The original Paolini.
Yeah, basically. The only difference, I guess, is just like Paolini is a different style in that she's an aggressive player. Kerber is the defensive style, but is definitely in terms of like trajectory. Yes, we're only waiting for Paolini to put her hands on the first Grand Slam title.
All right. I think that is our tribute to Angelique Kerber. What a player. Thanks for the memories, Angie. Absolutely loved watching you play, and hope you enjoy family life or whatever else you've got planned afterwards. Andre, thank you so much for coming on and doing what ended up being an almost hour-long Olympics preview with some other stuff crammed in. But I've really enjoyed kind of going through and coming through all the stories with you. As always, you're a great person to do draw previews with.
Great times. Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, and everyone else, thanks for joining as well. Those of you who are still here, those of you who are watching back, those of you who are listening back as well on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed as well. Give us a like. Please subscribe to YouTube channel or to our various feeds, and we will be back for post-Olympics chat a week on Sunday, or maybe it might be Monday if we want to wrap up DC as well. But yeah, so it's probably going to be about 10 days time for the next WTA Weekly episode, where we will be wrapping up an explosive week in women's tennis. Don't miss it. I'm looking forward to that. But in the meantime, till then, take care and keep talking tennis.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.